Okay, so what we're going to do today is look at an issue that's connected to the wrist, and specifically why there needs to be a co-contraction between the wrist extensors and flexors during gripping types of tasks, and that transfers to a lot of different types of hand functions. So let's put a forearm bone here. Oh, a little crooked, but that's okay. Then we'll put our lunate bone here, capitate, metacarpal, proximal phalanx, middle phalanx, and then distal phalanx here. So everything's extended now, and so we want to know what happens when we try to grip. So we have let's look at two extrinsic gripping muscles. So let's bring in the flexor digitorum superficialis, so we know it attaches to the middle phalanx. So we'll put a force in the flexor digitorum superficialis here, and then we'll also put in the flexor digitorum profundus, which is deeper. So it's running along the forearm, and then it pierces through the flexor digitorum superficialis and attaches to the proximal part of the distal phalanx. So we can put the force in the flexor digitorum profundus. So let's make in blue the wrist extensor muscles. So we can see here there's three of them. There's two, flexor carpi radialis brevis and longus, and those are coming off of the second and third metacarpals. So we'll kind of represent those here, and we'll put force in the flexor carpi radialis, and we'll just know we'll put longus and brevis here, and then we'll put another arrow here coming up, and we know that's the flexor force and the flexor carpi ulnaris. So why do we need this control of the wrist? Well, if we look at the flexors, so we try to grip. Here we have FDP, FDS. What successfully they're doing, gripping, is essentially flexing the DIP joint, and then also flexing the PIP joint, and then also flexing the MCP joint, our metacarpal phalangeal joint. But we really don't want flexion at the wrist. I'm going to spell that better here. We don't want flexion at the wrist, right? We want it to be stable. Okay, so we don't want that. So essentially what's going to happen, though, if we look at the flexor digitorum profundus and flexor digitorum superficialis, they have really nice moment arms here for, if we say there's the axis of each joint, they're in the heads of the phalanges, and the metacarpal, that's our axis point. And if we go this perpendicular distance here to the finger flexors, they have nice moments causing flexion, each one of them. But they also have a moment, if we think of the axis of the wrist as through the capitate, which is true, they also have a moment acting into flexion at the wrist, which we don't want. And so what we need a co-contraction from the flexor carpi ulnaris and flexor carpi radialis longus and brevis to stop this flexion moment that's developed by the flexor digitorum superficialis and flexor digitorum profundus and some other hand intrinsic muscles. So for that reason, it's really important for the wrist extensors to be active in, one, stabilizing the wrist during grip, and then two, positioning the wrist so that the length tension relationship in the FDS and FDP is optimal.